they can't self-identify with these labels, or like they didn't self-identify. So like, what do we call them? Do they fit under the definition of transgender? Did they transition? They might have transitioned, but can we still call them a transitioner if it wasn't called transitioning? So like there are trans people, transgender people that might fit under like they did benefit from transitioning from male to female, but can we call them transmaxxers if they don't self-identify as transmaxxers? Or like, are they just transgender? Are you only a transmaxxer if you identify with the idea of transmaxxing?
Can you say whether or not women are treated better as a whole? Do you have an opinion on that?
Like if I had to give a yes or a no, I'd be unable to answer the question.
In what ways do you observe women being treated better?
I think that there are some contexts that women will feel like they're treated better, or if you're somebody who's not receiving certain things, you'll feel like they are being treated better. One example could be like a sense of community. One example is that since I've transitioned, when I go out and like I'm just out, I'll get like smiled at. I don't know. People are very like soft with me now. They're very like nice. Whereas before, it wasn't really like that. I was ignored. Like nobody really looked at me. So I was safe. Like socially, I was fine. I would just get ignored. But in that being ignored, I think that's why some people feel like women get treated better, because women don't get ignored. But this is what I was talking about earlier with like learned experiences versus like body experiences. Since I've started transitioning, I do know that a lot of the attention that comes with being perceived as feminine does take a toll on you. Like it ends up like weighing on you. But if you never experience it, you're likely going to like see it as being treated better, if that makes sense.
How does it weigh on you? Like, how does that manifest?
So I don't know if this is just socialization or if it's hormones too, because I just got on progesterone, and progesterone is making me feel like a bad bitch. I feel very confident now, but before I was just on estrogen. And one thing that I learned through this study that I read is that when you just have really high estrogen but low progesterone, you get really bad anxiety ruminations. And one way that I noticed this presenting in me was I would be like scared to go into the store. I'd be scared to like get looked at, because I'd be afraid that somebody's gonna like follow me out and like get me. I don't know. I fear for my physical safety sometimes, and I feel less like I would be able to handle myself. God forbid something did go down.
You're becoming less physically capable of sending people off or whatever.
Yeah. And people fuck with me now. Like people would fuck with me as a guy as like a homosocial bonding ritual where like it was normal. But now they'll fuck with me because they see me as a freak. That's more trans misogyny than just regular misogyny.
Right, and you mentioned that the downsides of trans misogyny and regular misogyny are still better than being an incel man. Do you still believe that?
Personally, I would rather deal with the negatives that I am given now in the position that I am than the negatives that I had before. But that's, again, because of all the things that are already in my brain. For me, it's better to do this than something else. But as a blanket objective, as an objective statement, I think it's all a dialectic between the actual interactions of society and how you as an individual inside of your brain feel with those interactions of society. So like, for me, it's better. But for everybody, that's not a statement I can make.
You seem apprehensive about making broad statements about everybody.
I can't speak for everybody. And I feel like there's so much nuance that like giving one answer.
Like, let me just say, I totally understand what you're saying. Are there things that you can say about everybody? Are there things that you've observed in your lived experience that you're like, yeah, this is a kind of a broadly true statement that I can apply to lots of people?
People are autonomous based on the things they've learned up until that point in their life.
Yeah.
That's roughly what I've learned that I can apply to everybody.
Fair enough. How big is this? Do you have lots of friends who identify with this transmaxxing framework?
I have friends in the community. And I also think that it's not just about the people that are already in the community. There's a lot of people that come to the community and they end up like, I don't want to say getting help. It's not like in a professional capacity to help people, but it is a community for people who are struggling with these things like AGP, autogynephilia. It's a community for people who are struggling, who might not always fit in with other people who have similar mental preconditions as them. It's not just the existing people in the transmaxing community. It's also the other people that can get helped by an apolitical trans community.
Interesting. You know, I'm still really trying to grasp definitionally how you're using transmaxing. Because if you're using transmaxing as a blanket term to mean an apolitical way of transitioning, that makes sense, but I don't know if I would call it transmaxing, right? I don't know if that's the right word. Apolitical transitioning is a fascinating concept, right? In terms of like what makes every trans person, you know, celebrity trans people that are like, is Elliot Page a transmaxer, right? Is ContraPoints a transmaxer? Is Philosophy Tube a transmaxer?
Well, this actually comes down to an issue that we find when, for example, labeling people from the past, right? Like if we try and go back and label queer people throughout history as like, oh, they were a trans man, they were a trans woman, oh, they were just gay. Like we can't, because our labels don't really, they can't self-identify with these labels, or like they didn't self-identify. So like, what do we call them? Do they fit under the definition of transgender? Did they transition? They might have transitioned, but can we still call them a transitioner if it wasn't called transitioning? So like there are trans people, transgender people that might fit under like they did benefit from transitioning from male to female, but can we call them transmaxers if they don't self-identify as transmaxers? Or like, are they just transgender? Are you only a transmaxer if you identify with the idea of transmaxing?
It's a good question, and like that was actually kind of my question for you. Like, what do you think? You have to identify with transmaxing to be a transmaxer.
I think vaguely, yes. But in the same way that you have to identify with that to be a transmaxer, people do still refer to people in antiquity as trans. Maybe they don't, but I feel like I've seen people do that. So like, it's kind of the same way where like some people may use the term to as a catch-all, and then others may be using it as like a self-ID thing. Kind of like autogynephilia as well. Like as a typology, it's bad. As Blankard's typology, autogynephilia is debunked. It's not something we want to listen to. It's kind of transphobic. But as like a self-ID term, there are real people that identify with autogynephilia as their lived experience of how they've come to terms with their transition. And I kind of see transmaxing in a similar way.
Is there a noticeable difference between like Blanchard's autogynephilia and people's self-identification, except from where you are when you make that observation?
Yeah, well, Blankard he wrote it for psychiatrists and like doctors, so it's a typology. Like doctors are supposed to look at you and like listen to you and be like, oh, you're an AGP or you're an HSTS, which is like a homosexual transsexual.
Wait, what's that one? I haven't heard that one before.
HSTS, homosexual transsexual.
HSTS, okay.
That one's when you're gay. Well, essentially, you're effeminate from a young age, that you're called gay, and then you transition, right? You're like gay guy to trans woman pipeline. And this is just my headcanon, by the way. Yeah. AGP is more like you were not allowed to be effeminate. Just social pressure kept you from being effeminate. So you had to like dissociate away from it. So that's why you develop all these like intrusive thoughts of AGP. And then like, that's why you're straight man, because you learn how to repress everything. So you're essentially repressor to trans woman pipeline as compared to homosexual transsexual. But that's just a headcanon. And that, again, it's debunked. I don't encourage the use of AGP as like as a thing.